For millions of Filipinos, poverty behaves less like a temporary setback and more like a permanent condition, one that persists despite decades of government intervention. To understand why, we have to look past the individual struggles and into the specific mechanics of how the national budget actually moves. Senator Rodante Marcoleta grew up on a farm in Tarlac, witnessing a cycle that traps the nation's laborers. Agricultural workers often spend a year in the fields, only to find that at harvest time, they have merely broken even. The labor is constant, but the financial progress is non-existent. The government's primary response to this stagnation is the cash subsidy, a system designed to deliver envelopes of cash directly to those in need. However, the math reveals a massive leak. While the government allocates over 300 billion pesos for these programs, the intended 3,000 pesos per family degrades to just 1,000 or 500 pesos through bureaucratic layers. This scales across 5 million families, meaning millions receive only a fraction of the safety net funded. Politicians then leverage these diminished handouts. By personally distributing these taxpayer-funded subsidies, they encourage the public to view the money as a campaign favor from a candidate rather than a right provided by the state. Marginalized citizens are looking for structural opportunities to leave poverty behind, yet they remain trapped. The resources meant to build their path to independence are being intercepted at the top to maintain a cycle of dependency. To find where the leak begins, we have to leave the local handout lines and look at the national budget process. Diverting billions of pesos from the Treasury is impossible for a single rogue actor. It requires a sophisticated, multi-branch level of coordination between the executive and legislative arms of government. The money trail starts in the executive branch, where the Department of Budget drafts the National Expenditure Program. It's then handed to the House of Representatives, landing in the Appropriations Committee, the critical choke point for national spending. This is where the allegations of massive misconduct center, including the maneuvering of a single 100 billion peso insertion within the legislative stage. Executing an insertion of this magnitude is beyond the reach of a committee chairman alone. Such an act requires the explicit blessing and cooperation of the House leadership. Anomalies involving tens of billions of pesos are not simple administrative errors. They are the result of a highly orchestrated conspiracy operating at the highest levels of the state. To protect these systemic leaks, the government often uses external global events to distract the public from domestic mismanagement. For example, during oil pricing crises, the official narrative attributes local price spikes entirely to global shipping bottlenecks in places like the Suez Canal. However, independent data from the world's major refineries contradicts the government's justification for these local price hikes. Actual tank-to-vessel pricing data from Singapore and Rotterdam suggests that local diesel should cost between 40 and 50 pesos per liter. Instead, consumers often see prices far higher, indicating that local rates are being artificially inflated. Despite these findings, the Department of Energy has allegedly refused to validate or investigate this refinery data, allowing the discrepancies to persist. By focusing on global theater, the system ignores the data that threatens its profit margins, masking the ongoing exploitation of the domestic consumer. The core flaw of the Philippine government is its reliance on a culture of personality politics, rather than resilient, independent institutions. One solution involves replacing the current 300 billion peso cash subsidy system with a much leaner 120 billion peso direct electricity subsidy. By applying this credit directly to utility bills, the money bypasses bureaucratic layers entirely. This removes the middlemen and eliminates the opportunity for political patronage. Sustaining these policies requires political reform. Currently, the system allows the president and vice president to run on separate platforms, often leading to immediate administration infighting. Mandating that the president and vice president run as a unified electoral ticket would prevent this friction, ensuring 6 years of policy continuity and institutional focus. Ending systemic plunder requires a structural redesign that goes deeper than personnel changes. By re-engineering the state's architecture, the nation's wealth can be directed to permanently uplift the marginalized, instead of being diverted by the